Do you spend hours each week creating Instagram content, but you're still not getting the sales and the wins that you see everyone and their mom sharing to their feed? It's really rough. But there's usually just a few simple changes you need to make to get there, and I'm going to help you. You are closer than you think. You can find the exact gaps that you have in your Instagram strategy, the gaps that are holding you back from getting clients from your content with my free Find and Fix the Gaps in Your Instagram Strategy quiz. All you have to do is take 5 minutes to fill out the quiz and you will get the exact roadmap you need to start getting sales from your Instagram content. Get your copy of the quiz at sociallyyours.biz/findandfixed. All spelled out, all one word, find and fixed, or check the link in the show notes. I'm super excited about this episode of Mompreneur Mastery because I got to talk to Paige Figueroa. Paige is a mompreneur who actually has multiple online businesses. And she started her first one while she was actually a teacher, an English teacher in high school, and she had 6-month-old twins at home, which is pretty amazing. Since then, she's been able to leave her teaching job to be with her twins at home all the time and basically just kicking ass as an entrepreneur. So I'm really excited for you to hear our conversation about how she does it all and get her best tips. Welcome to the Mompreneur Mastery podcast, where we share actionable Instagram strategies that fit into a busy mom's schedule so that you can get more engagement, more leads, and more sales in less time. I'm Sydney O'Brien, an Instagram strategist who started my business with 3 kids under 5 and found a way to do it without sacrificing quality time with my family and only working 2 hours a day. I love helping other mom business owners find that seemingly impossible mom work-life balance instead of spending too much time creating content that isn't getting them the results they want. If you're an overwhelmed but very ambitious business owner and you want to strategize the heck out of your Instagram account so that you can save time and make more sales, you're in the right place. Today, Paige is here. I'm so excited. Thank you for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for having me, Sydney. So I'll just give like a really quick version because I'm sure we'll talk a lot about more specifics later. But I was an English teacher for 9 years. I taught like 7th grade English for a little bit, and then I taught high school English for my last 4 years. So I love reading, I love writing, but I knew that that wasn't like my life forever. So I decided about 18 months ago at this point to, kind of like start over, as scary as it was, and start my own business. And I've actually started multiple businesses at this point, but my first one was a copywriting business, kind of like content marketing. So writing like blogs and email sequences, web pages for various clients and brands. And I just am so baffled by how much more freedom I have in my life now as being an entrepreneur. And the reason I did this is because back in 2022, I had given birth to fraternal twins. So my life is a little bit chaotic. I have 2 twins, 2 dogs, and 2.5 businesses, I'll say at this point.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that like freedom is definitely a necessity for you guys.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. It's everything.
Yeah. That's awesome. I also love that you are an English teacher. My degree is in English. That was my favorite class. I'm a big reader. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Teaching must have been rough. I feel like it's really hard for teachers right now.
It is. It's been really rough for a while, but I feel like after having gone through the pandemic and teaching online and just like, I feel like it became even more apparent just like, we're considered these like essential workers or whatever, but it's like we don't feel like we're respected in that way. From just like how we're treated within like school systems to how we're compensated. So it's definitely kind of like a systemic issue for sure, especially in the United States. But I mean, at the heart of it, I did love teaching. Like I loved working with students. I loved the content area that I taught. It's just this like larger system that is kind of, hasn't figured out the right course yet. So
yeah, I feel like everyone I know that's a teacher has been saying the same things and is now looking for other jobs.
Yeah. And for me, I didn't always think that I was going to be a teacher forever. So it wasn't heartbreaking to leave teaching, but it was definitely bittersweet because all of the other teachers that I've worked with are some of the most wonderful people I've ever met and so passionate about what they do and so driven to help others. So it just, yeah, it feels kind of like disappointing that we don't, as a society, put more value in what teachers have to offer. But, as someone who has kind of been able to leave that scene, I do appreciate being on the other side of it at this point. I will say that.
Yeah, I bet. And you said you started as a copywriter and now you help other moms with their businesses. What was the other business you started?
Yeah, so the copywriting one is still my main source of income right now.
Okay.
And I started that because I love writing and it was something that I could, you know, monetize, but also like get joy out of doing it. But the other one that I started, so once I like took, I had to take a course on copywriting because as much as I know about writing, I didn't exactly know what copywriting was and how to like actually turn that skill into something that was very profitable. So I
Right.
took a course back in the summer of 2022 when my kids were like 6 months old and I was still on my maternity leave and summer break from school. But once I took that course and I realized like how successful this business owner was who made the course, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to like learn more about this digital product space and all of that. So I started this other small business called Slay Your Essay, which I use to help other high school, not other high school students, because I'm not a high school student, but I use to help high school seniors write their college application essays so that they feel really confident about applying to colleges because their personal statement, is on point and it's saying all the things that they need to say to stand out and like tell their story in an effective way. So I started that, I want to say back in, I was setting the foundations of it for quite a while, but kind of like officially launched it back in September. So that was like my first year launching. So I've taken a little bit of feedback and I'm kind of using that as more of a seasonal business because obviously application season, especially for most schools, isn't all year round. So I'm going to be revamping that a little bit this spring. But yeah, that was my first digital product that I created was this like online course walking students through the process of writing a college application essay.
That's so cool. It's really cool that you can do it seasonally too and like plan things around that. I think that's my favorite part of being like a stay-at-home mom business owner
Mhm.
is being able to plan things like when I need to and having the free time when I need it.
Yeah, it really is life changing. And I totally agree with everything you just said, and that's exactly why I felt this like drive to start it when my kids were so little because I was like, you know, I I already see how difficult it is being a mom when your kids like are just laying around all day. And I mean, of
Right.
course, they keep you up all night and stuff too. But I'm like, when they start walking around and stuff, I'm like, I just want to be able to like see them do all the things. Like, I don't want to be stuck
Yeah.
at a school all day, like just dreaming and wondering about what they're doing while someone else is watching them. So yeah, I totally agree with everything that you're saying there.
Yeah, it's really nice. I think so for my family, we are a military family and we've moved 4 times in the past 6 years. And we also homeschool.
Oh
So,
my
like, being able to not have to worry about, like, finding a new job every time I move is very nice, and being there for my
God.
kids because transitions for us are really hard. So, like, the constant moving and the constant like, my husband being away for work while we're here is rough, so being able to, like, have a job while being there for them is just amazing. Like,
Yeah, and I knew a little bit about your background, but I still like every time I see any post that you put up about like homeschooling and running your own business, I'm like, wow, Sydney like does it all. She's the coolest.
I wish you could see. I'm not gonna show you because it's too embarrassing, but, like, the state of my house would have you rethinking that. Like, there's a lot that gets left behind as
Yeah.
far as, like, messes in my house because I'm doing things all the time, but
Yeah. No, I can relate to that. But it's not our season to have the clean home, so it's okay.
yeah, I feel like especially with little kids,
Hmm.
like, it's impossible to do all the things, but prioritizing helps.
Uh-huh, for sure.
As long as it's, like, not disgusting, I'm okay. If it's messy, I'm fine. If it's dirty, we have problems. That's
Yeah.
what I tell
Yeah, there's like a
myself.
superficial cleaning you can do, but then we're actually potty training right now. So we're definitely not in the just messy phase. It's dirty. Like
Yeah.
and it's not fun. But
I hate potty training so much.
and it's actually funny. I don't want to get us too off track here, but as much as potty training, like, makes a lot of parents cringe or like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is the worst thing ever." That's the other thing I've loved about being a mompreneur, like, in these early years when my kids are so young is because, like, I actually like, as much as I don't like cleaning up pee and poop all the time, I like that I get to be here to be the one that, like, gets to teach them that, like, it's in my hands. I'm not, like, leaving it up to not that, like, a daycare would do anything wrong with teaching a kid potty training, but it's like, it's something that I've read about and that, like, I have a specific way that I'm trying to do it, and I appreciate that I get to, like, carry out this vision that I have of certain aspects of motherhood because I get to be here for them. So, yeah, that's my take on potty training right now.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And being able to do that, like, even outside of parenting, I mean, potty training, just parenting in general
Mhm.
is, yeah, I'm very appreciative of being able to like have a business and stay home with the kids. It's
Mhm.
awesome for moms. I'm so glad this is a thing. I had never like considered it or thought of it, but finding all the different mompreneurs online has been like really amazing and encouraging.
I really feel like this is actually something that's been on my mind a lot lately too. I feel like it's almost like a little, like, mom renaissance or, like, little, like, mom revolution of, like, "Wow, I actually can do this," because there's so much proof of other women and mothers in particular being successful at it. So it's
Yeah.
just like I love, like you were saying, this like almost like community of moms that you're finding online that like have decided to make this switch and decision for their own life and their family's life, and they're like crushing it and helping other women do it. And I feel like that's what you're doing, and I feel like that's why I started Mom Boss Freedom. And like I want to help other moms and women, like, see just how possible it really is to create this life for yourself that has all the things that you're, like, looking for, really.
Yeah, I love it so much. And like, there is, like, an awesome community of just moms supporting moms, like, living out their dreams and not that there's anything wrong with, like, just being a stay-at-home parent, but it was a struggle for me, like, just parenting and, like, having nothing for myself outside of
Mhm.
that, so work has been great for that, and being able to find other people in the online space because I don't know of any locally, especially with moving so often,
Mhm.
yeah, who can support and help with that too has been absolutely amazing. So I'm very appreciative of like the work you do to help other moms get that too. That's
Thanks.
awesome.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely I think that that's, like, a big piece of, like, what helps me keep going, though, on some of the challenging days. I'm sure you've run into this a little bit yourself 'cause, it has its ebbs and flows just like anything, but like, leaning on that support that you get from others online, like you were saying too, even if you never met them in person before, like you, for example, like, I feel like you support like, even just, like, commenting or, like, liking a post, like, that goes a long way in helping someone feel supported in what they're doing. So, that, like, reel that you put up that, like, maybe only, like, 40 people see, you're like but it's still 40 people, and there's people out there who care about what I'm doing, and, like, they're there for me, So it's, like, this nice space to be in once you kinda, like, find those people, that are part of your little, like, online network.
Yeah. There are definitely things about social media that I don't like,
Mhm.
but being able to like find like that community is pretty incredible.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
is, yeah, definitely something that keeps me going as well.
Mhm.
'Cause there are definitely the hard days. I'm not gonna pretend it's, like, perfect or easy, but it is 100% worth it, and having, like, that community makes it a lot easier for sure.
Yeah, 100% agree.
What is your biggest piece of advice for moms who want to start their own business or are struggling with getting it off the ground?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say the thing that I tell, and I've talked to some moms too about this, and like I've seen their struggles, especially I'm in like a larger network of like copywriting or copywriters, and a lot of them are moms, and I hear like a lot of this similar struggles over and over with them again. It's kind of this, like, self-doubt almost. So I think my biggest piece of advice is to do the mindset work alongside of, all the business related tasks that you're doing because the the way that you think about things and the way that you talk to yourself on a daily basis is, like it literally becomes a reality, like, once it translates into actions, and so doing like the foundational mindset work that you need to do to be in a space where you believe in yourself, even on the days when it's challenging and you're like sticking to your vision and you like, even if you can't see it, you know that it's possible. I think that's the biggest thing because I think moms have an extra special challenge that they're up against when it comes to starting a business. I mean, really, when we do almost anything, like we're up against a challenge when we're invited to a wedding to go to that's away for a weekend, right? But I think we just have this like extra set of challenges that we face. And so that mindset piece is so important. And I don't know, I just think that that's, like, literally everything, and it's not even just related to business, it's, like, related to how you go about your day in general and how you kind of, like, experience happiness in life is, like, this mindset piece.
That is something that I hadn't really considered, but it makes like way too much sense.
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot of things in business can also be applied to like parenting. And as soon as you said that, I thought of like, I saw this meme once that was like the way you talk to your kids becomes their inner voice. And
Yeah.
it's like the same thing just for yourself. So we as moms want to like do that for our kids so they have that confidence, but we also need to do it for ourselves for business and life in general for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
that no, that's so true, and I know over the last few years, like, since becoming a mom, I feel like I've started reading I've started shifting, like, what I read because I was an English teacher. I've read a lot of, like, you know, dramas like Shakespeare or, just like fiction and like the literature that I would teach in class. But I've almost had this like shift in like loving listening to self-improvement audiobooks and like books about mindset and about parenting. 'Cause I just like to like educate myself on like what are other people doing and how are they being successful in these things. And yet with all of the parenting books even that I've listened to, you're right. It's the mentality that you have around anything that you do that lends itself to your success or your ultimate failure. And I think, like, being aware of that is the first step, but then also, like, taking action and making tweaks in how you approach your beliefs and, like, how you start to change them and things is such a cool process.
it is. And I did the same thing. I have like bookshelves all in this office full of like parenting books
Uh-huh.
and like self improvement things. And they all, yeah, talk about the same thing. It is just like, I think it's harder to do than it sounds, but it is such important work for
Mhm.
sure.
With mindset work, I feel like everybody talks about mindset work, but it kind of I feel like especially if you're, like, new to the self-improvement world and, like, world of entrepreneurship in general, it seems like this abstract thing that people are talking about, but I found that it's really, like, any practice that works for you in kind of, like, raising your energy and allowing you to feel like what it is that you wanna accomplish is possible, and so a few of the things that I do that help me kind of, like, stay in this mindset of what I'm achieving can happen and it is happening are writing daily affirmations, writing in a journal. Sometimes the writing in a journal is like me writing down the things that I'm like panicking about inside and then like rewriting them till I get to a point where I'm like, oh, okay. I was panicking about this at first, but now like I've like written it down and been able to like change it to like an empowering statement instead of something that's like making me freak out inside. It's listening to audiobooks or reading books about other people who are inspiring, like reading memoirs, reading self-improvement books, books about mindset. It's like being very particular about who I follow on social media and like making sure that the content that I'm coming across is content that makes me feel empowered and uplifted or unfollowing accounts that make me feel shitty about myself. And then also just, like, making sure that I make time for myself in the day. Some days that looks like 5 minutes, other days I can get away with, like, 30 minutes of just, like, doing something I wanna do, whether it's, like, taking the dogs for a walk after the kids go to bed, laying on the couch to meditate or something, like, just, like, making sure that I have time to, like, just be present with myself without other distractions, really. So I feel like that's really helpful. But aside from the mindset work, I also think this goes back to the piece that we were talking about with like finding this community. But for a mom who's like just beginning their own business or who's thinking of like starting their own business and becoming an entrepreneur, I do think it's really important to find not only just like a network of other moms who are inspiring you, but like somebody that you can look to as a mentor so that you can, follow in their path. And of course, I have this mindset because I'm a teacher, right? So I've always felt very passionately about like I love learning, right? So I love learning from other people. I've always highly regarded all of my teachers and my coaches for like the sports that I played. But I think like once you find a mentor that kind of like speaks to your learning style, or you just feel like you have this kind of like connection with them in some way, I feel like stick with them. And there's so many amazing women out there nowadays doing so many great things in the world of entrepreneurship. It's not hard to find people once you start looking, but like find a mentor and like invest in their program, buy their course, do their one-to-one coaching, whatever it is, because as a mom, it is really hard to do all these things on your own, and having that like level of accountability can be helpful, but also just like being able to learn from someone who's done the things that you want to do can make you get there a lot faster so that you're not kind of like on this hamster wheel forever spinning your wheels at first, feeling like you're not going anywhere. So I feel like finding a mentor is so huge. And it's something that I did at the beginning of my journey, and I would 100% do it again in a heartbeat. Regardless of the amount of the investment it takes, like do it. Find a mentor.
Yeah, I did the same and it was like a big game changer and yeah, super helpful like business wise from like knowing what to do at certain points of my business, but also on those hard days knowing like you had someone who was there to help you instead of just feeling like you were doing it on your own made a big difference
Yeah,
for me.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
again, it can look like different things. Like my first investment in like quote unquote mentorship was like this larger community that I was a part of for this copywriting course that I invested in, but like it was a space I could go to and like do these like live calls every week where you could ask questions. We had it originally was like a Facebook group, but it turned into like another app, basically similar to Facebook, where you can like post questions and like get like comments and feedback from other people in the community. So that was really, really helpful. And like I'm at a place now where like I'm hoping to like invest in one-to-one business coaching or mindset coaching to like really take things to the next level. I'm so excited about doing that. But yeah, I think like whatever that mentorship looks like for you, whether it's one-to-one coaching, finding a community, even just like enrolling in a program at first, even if it's asynchronous or whatever, like it's all valuable, right? And you can find what works for you.
Yeah, and there's so many different options. Like so many people are doing it now. So you can find like the person that speaks to like your learning style and
Yeah.
your like whatever path it is that you're on. And there's also a lot of different options, like you were saying, of like avenues to do it, whether it's one-on-one coaching or like a mastermind or like group coaching that where they don't have live calls, but it might be more accessible, like investment wise, so lots of options out there. And
Mhm.
yeah, highly, highly recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you were talking about with the mindset stuff. I'm so glad that you mentioned like how you do that because even though I've read the books, it's something I still struggle with. And when you were talking about just writing down the things that you were like having problems with until you could rework it into being an empowering thing. That is also something that like I was immediately thought of like a coach that helps me with that.
Mhm.
So having both of those, like doing it on your own plus having that outside mentor would make a big difference for
Oh,
sure.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and there's definitely like a few specific mindset hurdles that I think moms in particular face that maybe like another person wanting to start a business doesn't have to go through as intensely.
Yeah.
So I think first and foremost, this goes for, I think, a mom who's like in the beginning of building her business or just like thinking about starting one, but it's just mom guilt. I feel like as mothers, and I already, yeah, like you're shaking your head, you get it, but we feel guilty about everything, like, even before we have our babies, right? You're like, "I can't eat this because I feel bad it's gonna hurt the baby when they're still, like, in your stomach." And then when they're born, it's like you feel guilty for feeding them a certain way, and there's just all this guilt behind it, but I think when it comes to starting a business, moms feel this, like, guilt in the beginning about wanting to do something for themselves. And I feel like you kind of spoke to that a little bit, but it's like you get engrossed in motherhood in the beginning. And there is a period, I feel like, especially when your kids are really little, where you kind of like don't have the mental space at first because you're not sleeping. But like you don't have the mental space to even like think about the things that you do want for yourself. It's kind of this like rebirth that you have as a mother. But I do think there's this like guilt attached to it where it's like you're so focused on your children that it's like you feel like you're taking away from them in some way by wanting to do this thing for yourself. But I think like the mindset shift that I went through that has been really helpful for me is, I'm a human too, right? Like I existed before these little humans do. And the things that I want in life are just as important as the things that they are going to eventually want in life. And like, I'm setting a good example for them as they grow older and become more aware of the world. Like, I'm pursuing the things that I want. That's exactly what I want my children to do, right? I want them to go after the things that they want and like do the things that make them happy. So I feel like it's this like shift that you have to have of like, okay, it feels weird at first because I'm not used to it. I'm used to like giving all of myself to them, but like you also can get to a place where you realize that like that's actually not helping you or them, and like putting your energy into doing something that gives you happiness is really going to help both you and them in the long term as far as like setting an example of the life that you want them to eventually lead.
Yes, so much of that hits home. I went through the same thing, and I'm sure like a million bajillion other moms do too.
Mhm.
But I do think that we are also like setting some really awesome examples, like you said, of like prioritizing yourself, advocating for yourself, setting boundaries. Like all of these things are things I want my kids to learn to do. And the best way to teach them is to like show them and do it ourselves. And I feel like having time away from my kids to work on the things that I want to work on also
Mhm.
helps make me a better mom. So when I am with them, I'm more like feel more like focused and like into it and much more, I don't know, enjoyable.
Yeah, it's like you can feel more present with them because you don't feel
Yeah.
like you're like, I don't know, like missing out on something else, or like you've already
Yeah.
given yourself that time to focus on what it is that you need as an individual. And now you can like give your energy and attention to their need.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And the other thing I think too, and this is something that I definitely hear from a lot of moms too, is this like limiting belief around like not having time. And I do think that that is a really challenging one because, depending on whatever stage of motherhood you're in, I mean, you have so much going on, and like finding the time can be challenging. But I think the two things that really help me with that is like shifting away from this, like, it has to be an all or nothing thing, right? Like, maybe I can't devote 2 hours a day to building my business in the beginning, but I can definitely do 30 minutes a day, right? And kind of, like, being okay with, like, not setting the bar lower, but just, like, being realistic about your expectations of what's possible in the beginning, but in a way that's still empowering, right? Not saying, like, "Oh, I can't do this, I don't have time." It's like, I do have time if I make it, and, like, it might take me a little bit longer than someone that doesn't have children, but, like, if I commit to being consistent, you know, with this 30 minutes a day or whatever it is, like, I can build something amazing, and that's actually really what I did at first too, because I was still when I went back to work after that first summer after maternity leave, I was still teaching full time, and we had, like, a unique situation where my kids didn't have to go to daycare. They had all these medical struggles at first, so we had a home care nurse that watched them during the day. But I would leave at, like, 6:30 in the morning, be at work all day, come home with my kids, like, obviously, they were newborn still, they weren't, like, sleeping all the way through the night, so I would be tired, but, like, I would use time while I was, like, sitting in their room with, like, AirPods in my ears, like, listening to an audiobook or something, or listening to a module in a course I was taking, or, like, listening to those things during stroller walks. So it's like, you can be creative with the time that you do have, and, instead of maybe I'm not saying everybody scrolls mindlessly on social media, but, like, find something that you do that you don't feel like brings value to your life and switch that with something that can help you build this life that you want long term, whether it's taking a course or listening to helpful media in whatever form it is, a podcast, an audiobook, whatever. But just being mindful about like that effort that you're putting in compounds over time, and it can be possible even if you are a mom.
Yeah, that's super true. And having like flexibility too, I think, because when you go through like different seasons with your kids, it's going to change, whether it's like
Yeah.
30 minutes these couple of weeks and then maybe like an hour over here.
Mhm.
It always changes. So being able to be flexible is super helpful. But when you were saying prioritizing or just having like 30 minutes a day, I made me think of when I first started doing social media. My kids were 1, 2, and 4.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the only time I would do it was when I was putting my kids to bed. I would sit on the floor in their bedroom. Two of them shared a room, and I would just sit on the floor on my phone, like making graphics in Canva and like
Nice.
typing out captions because that was like only time I had really because it
Yeah.
was my husband was gone for work. So it was just me and the three kids. But yeah, you do what you can when you can and
Yeah.
definitely prioritize.
Yeah, and I feel like I know some things about you from social media, but, like, you only have so much time in the day, like we're saying, to, like, to know all of the things. But
Yeah.
you did that with 3 children, like, that's amazing. Like, 1, 2, and 4. I can only imagine. My kids are 2 right now, so I'm only imagining, like, what it's like to have a 2-year-old who's, like, going through, like, I don't like to call it the terrible twos, but that era, and then
Yeah.
also a 1-year-old, but then a 4-year-old. I haven't even gotten there yet, so I can only imagine the can of worms that comes with a 4-year-old. But yeah,
It was
like, you had 3 little humans fighting for your attention, and you still could do this, and I think that's, like, I don't know, I'm so excited to be on your podcast because I feel like spreading the word to as many women as possible of, like, "You can do this," is really what I'm all about, and I feel like you're about that too.
yeah, it's been really awesome for me and my family as an extension because I mean, if we're being honest, moms like just run the whole family.
We do, yeah.
Yeah. And you have a master class to help moms with their businesses, right? Can you
Yeah.
tell us about it?
Yeah, so it's called the Passion to Profit Masterclass, and really it's just kind of like an overview of some of the I go through 7 steps basically that you need to take in order to go from not having any sort of clue about, like, how to start your own business to kinda having the steps that you need to take from the very beginning to get to that point where you have this income stream that is based on something that you really love doing and that you enjoy, and turning it into either a profitable service or a digital product. And I also go in a little bit more detail about my own story and how I got into doing all of the business endeavors that I'm a part of right now too. But yeah, I have that. It's free. And I just really, like I said, I want to spread the word to as many women and mothers as possible, but that, like, you can do this. And, like, these are the steps that you need to take to get there.
That's awesome. I think having the steps and having a plan is like such a big hurdle to get over. So it's really amazing. You're giving that away for free to
Um,
help other moms get there because it
yeah.
is just amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And I feel like, yeah, sometimes that's all it is like this world of entrepreneurship can feel overwhelming at first. So it's like as much as we can kind of demystify like what it actually is and like how you can be successful in this space. I think that that's so important. It's like kind of like drawing back the curtains. Okay, like at least sharing your own experience even. Like this is what I did to get there and like, you know, everybody's journey is going to be slightly different, but there's still some like basic steps that you can take to make this happen and make this possible for you too. So just like love being kind of like generous with that knowledge. So, other lovely women can have this for their own reality.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm really excited. I'm going to put the link for that in the show notes. So if you're listening, definitely get access to that masterclass.
Wonderful.
Perfect. Well, then, Paige, thank you so much for being here. I am honestly like really, really glad that we got to have this conversation and I got to get to know you more and we can now get to share it with listeners. It's been really awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I was like super excited being able to take time to come on here today and obviously get to meet you a little bit more and learn about
Yeah.
you as well. So, yeah, best of luck to anybody who's listening because Like, you've got this. You can do it.
These are like such great words to end on. I love the empowerment there, but that is just like all like you. That's what you do. So
I I'm
perfect.
like, as much as I like don't I'm like not a classroom teacher anymore. I feel like I still have this like, you can do it, like, but I do feel like you can do it. So I'm gonna say it anyway.
Yeah. Can you give your Instagram handle so people can find you and get your content in their feed for just constant empowerment?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Mom Boss Freedom. Those are like the main places that I show up in social media for that business. But, connect with me on there, follow me, send me a DM. I know sometimes it can be scary to like comment something in public. So I do check my DMs. You can also email me at paige@mombossfreedom.com. So whatever works for you in connecting, I'm happy to be there for you.
Perfect. And I will put all of those in the show notes for you guys. Thank you so much again.
Yes. Thank you, Sydney.
Hey, Mompreneur. I know that selling your offers on Instagram is really hard. First, you gotta know how to word your content to make sure that it clearly shows how amazeballs your offer is. And then you also have to know how to craft the content to make sure it appeases the algorithm gods so it actually gets seen by the people most likely to buy it. My goal is to help moms help their families through their online businesses. That is why I made Carousels That Sell. Carousels That Sell is a collection of 7 Instagram carousels and captions that have made me over $20,000. So I turn them into plug and play templates so that you can get the same results. Carousels That Sell is super easy to use, so you can easily create and schedule the content and will help sell your offers for you while you're off playing with your kids. Grab the templates that have made me over $20K for only $27 at socialyours.biz/carousels-that-sell so you can grow your business bank account faster than your kid outgrows their clothes.